Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into a fascinating 8th grade math lesson that tackles a really essential rule. But here's the twist. It actually ties this math concept directly to how we view problems in our everyday lives. It's a really cool approach to building a foundation for high school algebra, and honestly, way beyond that. Let's get right into it. So, part 1, transforming your mind. This is really all about laying down the foundation for logical thinking before we even touch the numbers.
The curriculum actually kicks things off with a powerful quote from Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Now, you might be wondering, what does that have to do with 8th grade math? Well, the lesson makes this brilliant connection. It suggests that engaging our minds in logical, mathematical thinking literally transforms our perspective. Training your brain to follow math rules is presented as a practical way to, renew the mind so we can process all information more rationally.
All right, moving on to the actual math, the product of powers rule. The golden rule here? Keep the base and add the exponents. The core rule we're looking at is honestly beautifully simple once it clicks for you. The product of powers rule just says that when you multiply expressions that have the exact same base, you do not multiply the exponents. Instead, you accumulate them by adding. So the base stays exactly the same, and those little exponents, they just stack up together. Now, I gotta say, this is exactly where a lot of us get tripped up. Your gut instinct, right? You see a multiplication sign between the bases, so your brain goes, okay, multiply everything in sight, including those tiny numbers at the top. Adding when you're technically supposed to be multiplying, it feels almost like breaking a math law. But once you trust the actual rule, again, keep the base, add the exponents, everything just gets so much clearer. Let's actually visually prove why this works, rather than just blindly memorizing a rule. We have to remember that exponents are literally just a shorthand way of writing repeated multiplication. Check out step 1, 2 to the 4th power. That's just 2 multiplied by itself 4 times. Easy, right? Step 2 is 2 to the 3rd power, which is 2 times itself 3 times. Now, step 3. If you multiply those two groups together, you just line them all up in a big row. Count them up, and you've got 7 2s multiplying together. Bam, 2 to the 7th power. 4 plus 3 equals 7. The rule basically proves itself visually. Let's see this rule in action with some real math examples. We're going to start simple and scale our way up. But real quick, why does this even matter? Well, exponents are absolutely everywhere. Whether you're calculating the area of a complex space, mapping out how fast an animal population is growing in biology, or just trying to survive heavy equations in high school algebra, this rule is going to show up. Knowing how to quickly simplify these expressions saves you a ton of valuable time. It drastically cuts down on errors, and really, it just gives you the confidence you need for advanced math. And this table perfectly illustrates how the exact same rule applies no matter how complex the problem looks. In the first row, we have basic numbers, 3 squared times 3 to the 5th. Keep the 3, add the 2 and 5, and boom, 3 to the 7th. In row 2, the curriculum throws in variables, x to the 4th times x squared. The rule still holds up perfectly, giving us x to the 6th. And finally, row 3, mixed variables. Here, you just multiply the large numbers normally, so 2 times 5 is 10. But for the bases, you still just add the exponents, 3 plus 2. So you end up with 10m to the 5th. Piece of cake. Now for the final stretch, the power of steady growth. Let's look at how this applies to homework and, surprisingly, life lessons. The lesson challenges you to practice this concept of accumulation independently with these 5 expressions. And I'll let you in on a great pro tip for problems like the third one on this list. Always remember the invisible 1 sitting on any variable that doesn't have a written exponent. So that single a is actually a to the 1st power. Working through these specific types of problems is exactly how the curriculum builds that steady, rock-solid foundation. After the math, the curriculum introduces a really interesting biblical morality tip centered entirely around the idea that small steps add up. It draws this really neat parallel. Just like we accumulate exponents to create a much larger power, we grow in faith and wisdom by adding small daily acts of obedience. It's essentially a lesson on the massive power of steady growth, whether you're trying to master algebra or just grow spiritually. You see, the core philosophy of this Hero Smart Academy curriculum is to intentionally intertwine biblical morality with education. The source material argues that education without a moral compass ultimately falls short. It cites Romans 8:6-7 to suggest that keeping your mind spiritual alongside your academics is what actually brings true peace of mind.
I want to leave you with this final, really provocative thought to ponder. What is the point of being incredibly smart and highly educated if we just keep making choices that hurt ourselves or others? Education is a wonderfully powerful tool, absolutely, but this lesson argues it truly shines only when it goes hand in hand with a renewed mind making good moral choices. It's a pretty fascinating look at how combining strict math concepts like exponent rules with small daily steps of personal growth creates a truly holistic approach to learning. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.